Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to anybody watching. My name is Erie Martin, and this is Bear Down, Speak Up. My fault for smacking you on the magnet right there. But yes. So this show is a show for my sports journalism class. I need to do 8 episodes of it. But if we can keep the ball rolling, then maybe we can continue it on as the season goes on. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? Every week I will be covering the Bears game that happened in the past week and what I think will happen in the next week. So without further ado, let's jump straight into this past week 1 game against the Minnesota Vikings. So for my thoughts going into the game, I really, you don't want to hype yourself up too much when it comes to the Bears. I've been disappointed before, so I didn't want to get my hopes up too high. But with the new additions of, our new O-lineman, mainly Joe Thuney, who we'll talk about later on, and new wide receivers, Olamide Zaccheaus, who had a very good game, and just the new additions, I was a little excited, but once again, didn't want to get my hopes up too high because I've been let down before. And now for the opening drive of the game. The opening drive, they looked like a Super Bowl team right there. That looked like, oh my goodness, they just drove down this field so easily. After the defense got a 3 and out, the offense gets the ball and they just go straight down the field, get into the end zone. I'm thinking, oh man, easy win. We're gonna walk away with this game. And then I saw how the second drive went, and I said, let me relax. The opening drive was great. Caleb looked great. Ben Johnson looked comfortable giving them the calls. It was smooth flowing. Everything looked very good. And then the second drive came up, and it was a little like, we look good, but it's only it could have been better. The defense, the first half defense looked absolutely amazing. The Vikings couldn't do anything. They couldn't. They're just 3 and outs. They just kept getting stalled drive. Defense looked absolutely amazing, even without key pieces like Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson, who we will speak about later as well. Not included in the first half, it was the beginning of the second half, the Nashawn Wright pick 6. Oh my goodness. This should have been the dagger in the game. There is no reason that after this Nashawn Wright pick 6, the Vikings gained any momentum and we lost any. There was no reason that the game should have even been close after he got that pick 6. That should have been the dagger in the heart that led us to victory in this game. We looked absolutely amazing shutting down them. They couldn't move the ball down the field. Justin Jefferson barely had any catches. Adam Thielen barely had any catches. The defense was shut down. The O-line looks absolutely amazing. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Joe Thuney looks like the guy that we needed to bring in. Now, the penalties is another thing. We're about to get to that. But no, other than that, the way Caleb had time in the pocket and the way when he did get pressure, he was able to scramble out and make throws on the run or make plays with his feet. He looked great at first. The penalties is a big part that I want to get into. The false starts that we just kept on getting. We had way too many penalties. If I'm not mistaken, let me check this real quick. I have a picture here from 9 minutes and 52 seconds left in the fourth quarter. The Vikings have 5 penalties for 30 yards, and the Bears have 11 penalties for 122 yards. The false starts, hey, look, okay, our guys are moving too quickly. I can give you that, referee. But the holding penalty was one of the worst calls I have ever seen in my life. Here's the penalty. When this was called holding, I said absolutely where. This stalled the drive all the way. We got backed up, and then the play after that was a really bad intentional grounding from Caleb. That was a really bad play on his part. And then the drive eventually led to 0 points, which we will get into in a second again. That was one of the most egregious holding calls I have ever seen. The man fell on the ground, and Darnell Wright kept him on the ground, and they called it holding. That's not how that works. Even the commentators agreed that that was a very poor call. And then the pass interference call on Tyreek Stevenson. Now, I'm a huge Tyreek Stevenson fan. Even after the whole stuff with the Hail Mary stuff happened last year, people were like, get him off the team. He doesn't deserve to be on the team anymore. I said, guys, relax. We're over-exaggerating. Tyreek Stevenson is a great defender. That was a terrible pass interference call. The man fell on the ground and then got up, and the ball was still overthrown. And they said, "Hey, that's pass interference." Excuse me? No. Even Packers fans were telling me, "Hey, that wasn't a pass interference." That drive eventually led to the Vikings getting a touchdown, putting them back into the game and making it a close game. And once that happened, I realized, oh man, we're not going to win this game. Let's speak on the missed field goal. I have been a Cairo Santos fan my entire life. But Cairo, your time might be up, buddy. You can't make that field goal. We can't win games. Exhibit A, this past game. We lost by 3 points. You know what Cairo Santos did? Missed the field goal. I saw that and I said, oh man, that's going to come back to bite us. Even though we were up and had momentum at that point, I knew that that was eventually going to be trouble for us. Guess what it was? Trouble for us. Right before I turned on this camera and started recording, I get a text message from one of my friends. Jake Moody to the Bears. I don't like that. I don't like that. Jake Moody also has a history of missing kicks. Now he's not officially on the team yet. He's just on the practice squad. But that's still eventually no. I don't want you anything to do with my team. I've seen a Chicago Bears team to where they didn't have a good kicker, and we knew for the entire season that we didn't have a good kicker. You know what happened? Exactly. Next thing I want to speak on is JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy, you did not have a good game, but you had a great fourth quarter. Oh my goodness, JJ McCarthy, you led that team back, and you gave them that win. You led them back and helped them to that win, and I have to applaud you for that, JJ McCarthy. As much as I don't like you because you went to Michigan, you had a great game that game. You led your team down there. That touchdown run, you had me fooled, buddy. I definitely thought you handed it off. You kept it, took it to the end zone, ran underneath the block. 6. I really stopped watching at that point, and I said, "Yep, game's over." JJ was 13 for 20, 143 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and of course the one interception, which was the pick six from Nashawn Wright. Back again on the defense, Nashawn, you just solidified yourself on this defense. He absolutely read that out route. He used to be a Viking, and so he's been running reps with Justin Jefferson for a very long time. And he looked good in this game, and that was just he had a very good game. So I think he's really solidified himself as one of the main DBs for us. If somebody does go out and get hurt again, or even now while we're still awaiting the return of Kyler Gordon, he solidified himself as one of our starting corners. Now I want to talk about Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, I love the way that first drive looked. You game planned that perfectly. The first 15 that you guys set up in practice, you say, hey, when we start up the game, we're going out and these are the plays we're running. This is how we're going to scheme the offense. Boom. You looked great. Rest of the game, a little shaky. A kind of shaky. It was shaky. It was shaky. So it's just basically like, yo, bro, like I need you to tighten it up. I get this is your first game as head coach. We gotta lock it in, bud. But other than that, though, I really liked looking over at the sideline, and as we're still leading, but our offense is stalling, Ben Johnson looks highly upset. I don't want to look over at the sideline and my head coach is content with going 3 and out or a stalled drive. I don't want to look over and say, I want to see my head coach be like, guys, what are we doing? We're National Football League players. We need to lock it in. And I like that. It may just be like a small thing, like, bro, what are you talking about? But that goes a long way with because Matt Eberflus, you would look over at the sideline, he'd be like, okay, oh well, no points that drive. No, bro, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? Y'all are literally giving away points. Y'all are giving away points. Stop giving away points. And now, talk we've all been waiting for. Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams. 21 for 35, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. You went 10 for 10 in your first 10 passes. Absolutely amazing. You looked like the MVP in the first 10 passes. And then we had a 4th down, I believe. to where you had a man running open across the middle, DJ Moore, if I'm not mistaken, and you overthrew him. I said, "Ooh, that's gonna hurt." Guess what? It hurt. We lost. He's gotta tighten up on some of them throws. The DJ Moore one, I'm not crazy on that because you just ran up to the line of scrimmage, you just ran up 30 yards and then snapped it and then dropped back and then threw it. You're a second year quarterback. I mean, like that's a lot of pressure. You just ran up all them yards. You're trying to catch your breath. You got to take into account these people are still human. So that overthrow, I'm not crazy on it because we did still end up getting into the end zone, but then it left less time between that time and the 2 minute uh, you know. But yeah, we got to tighten it up, Caleb. I need some of these throws to be accurate, blood. You can't be missing these. You're a National Football League quarterback. Now the defense. Defense, like I said before, looked great. Dennis Allen, you're looking good, brother. Like once the fourth quarter hit, Vikings started driving down the field more, but that was also in part to the pass interference penalty and stuff like that, like I mentioned before. But you know, defense looked good in my eyes. We get Jalen Johnson back next week. He's back from injury, and that leads me into this next point here. This Sunday against the Lions, away game against the Lions. Ben Johnson coaching against his former team. The Lions didn't look good last week at all. They looked horrible, but the Packers looked great. And today is Friday, and last night on Thursday Night Football, the Packers played football, and they looked great. I unfortunately think the Packers are winning the Super Bowl this year if they keep playing like this. Packers look like a championship winning football team. Aaron Rodgers would have won 5 rings with this type of defense that he has right here. Jerry Jones, I don't get why you would ever do such a thing in trading Michael Parsons. But hey, guess what? You did it. So guess what? We're living with the consequences of Jerry Jones' actions, and I'm not excited to play the Packers. I'm excited for this Lions game. I don't know who's going to win it, if I'm being honest. Of course, I want to say the Bears, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. With that being said, thank you everybody for watching this video. If you've gotten this far, I really appreciate you watching. And tune in next week for week 2 of Bear Down, Speak Up. See you.